On Truth Be Told this week, we have a very interesting conversation and two very interesting people. And I'm so happy that I got them both in the same place at the same time. Dr. Sanjay Nagral is a general surgeon, but he's also with the Forum of Medical Ethics, which is a difficult forum to be in. And Justice Saldana, a retired judge who, interestingly, just filed a petition before the Supreme Court asking that the law allow for the 4 convicts of the Nirbhaya case who are to be hanged be given the option to donate their organs. And I understand that particular petition was dismissed.
It was dismissed.
It was dismissed. But why did you file it?
5 seconds.
In 5 seconds, okay. What was your point? Why did you file it? What was your argument?
I filed it, Faye, for the simple reason that you see there are ever so many people, rich and poor in this country, who could do with it, would give them a new lease of life if these organs could be reused. And there'd be no prejudice whatsoever caused. As you know, lots of people, they say after I die, I'm giving my body to medical research, etc. Because they want to sort of contribute something and help. So I felt that there was good ground. There's good ground to reuse the organs if the people were healthy.
Yes.
Only point is that these rules are very, very antiquated, and doctor will bear me out. You see, you cannot go and use the organs if a body is kept hanging for 1 hour.
So the rules, for the benefit of my viewers, basically say that a person has to be hanged by the neck until death.
Yes.
And then left hanging for an hour after that.
Yeah, that's what this whole rule says.
Your argument is obviously quite rightly, scientifically, you cannot retrieve organs after the body's been hanging for an hour. Dr. Nagral, you just wrote a column on this about the fact that the entire global medical fraternity to do with organ donation is actually worried about this slippery slope, given what's happening in China.
Yeah, so I think so there is a history to this, and the history largely comes from China, where for many years the Chinese used organs of prisoners on death row, and this was officially admitted by the Chinese government. So I think the issue is, first of all, as we just said, that logistically to remove these organs in the way we execute prisoners is going to be a challenge. But that apart, I think the contrarian view, and I think it's a view we must look at, is that number one, is this really informed consent from the prisoner? You know, you're going to be executed a few days later, and you are asked to donate your organs. So is this really informed voluntary consent from the prisoner? Because even the prisoner has a right to informed consent. The second, of course, is that, and this again comes from the history of China, which is that they noticed that there are a lot of prisoners being executed who are political dissidents, and in fact it's been well recorded now to an international tribunal. So therefore what it will do to the to a country's rate of capital punishment and hanging, when potentially you are saying that these individuals are also a source of organs and there is a huge organ shortage. And so that's something worth considering, whether it could mean that societies may execute more people.
Award more death sentences, because now it means that society will benefit in a certain way. Justice Saldana, your response to that? Is that a slippery slope?
Doctor, I wholly agree with you as far as that is concerned, but I still feel that there could be built-in safeguards. We'll have to intelligently think of how to ensure it. For instance, that see, this power is not misused.
How would you build? What sort of safeguard would you bring in?
You'll have to have judicial safeguards, Faye.
Okay.
You have to have judicial safeguards in order to ensure, because I know at one time, taking on from what doctor says, I know at one time there was an allegation, I don't know how true it was, that if organs were desperately required, that there were all these targets who we want to get rid of in any case. So you see, you hasten the process and then just sort of do short work of it, you see. So these are danger areas. Doctor is right. The danger areas, it's like mercy killing. You see, you got to have very good and very strong safeguards to ensure that it doesn't happen, and one will have to think about that.
Yes.
So there's another issue which has come up, which is that since we are looking at this act by the prisoner as a sort of act of atonement,
Yes.
then would society then consider that if they donate, let's say, one kidney or a part of their liver as live prisoners,
Yes.
would you take away their death sentence and commute it to life because they have done an act for society? Can there be a quid pro quo?
Yes. Is there room in jurisprudence at all? Because we consider reform and not, punishment. Is there room in jurisprudence to consider that, okay, if you give your kidney and maybe a portion of your liver which regenerates, that it can be considered against your sentence?
It is a well accepted principle. For instance, when you come to the aspect of sentencing, you see, if the person is repentant, and if it is indicated to the court that they've done a lot to not only atone but to try and sort of
Good
make
behavior
good for
and-
what has
yes.
happened. Like in Portugal, for instance, most of the sentences are not jail sentences. They've got to work in hospitals, institutions, etc. over a period of time.
But
This is the same principle. Give back
but
to
Dr.
society.
Nagral, if I may offer you an argument, isn't that also a slippery slope? Because effectively, we know that organ trade is banned in our country. I can't sell a kidney for money or for anything else, or at least I shouldn't be selling a kidney. Isn't that effectively selling a kidney?
Not really, because what the prisoner may say is that I want to do this act and may link it to a mercy petition. There is no money involved. The person is giving a kidney. So it is a slippery slope, and these are the challenges of a policy like this. All I'm saying is, if we are saying atonement, then what atonement means for that prisoner is probably to commute to life.
If we consider these 4 convicts in the Nirbhaya case, specifically if we focus on this case, we know that effectively an individual who donates all of their organs, who pledges all of their organs before they die, could save 7, 8 lives at
Yes,
least, and these are 4 individuals. So effectively, these are the numbers we're talking about. Just to focus on the rules as they stand today, you said, of course, it would mean the execution would have to happen either in a hospital, or you'd have to set up an operation theatre in the jail, and hanging wouldn't be the best way to do that, would it?
No, there would have to be thought given to how to execute them, and so that's a big area, because today people. So there are 2 ways in 2 states we retrieve organs. One is called brain death. Now, you cannot produce brain death in a convict.
Yes.
Just for donating organs, but you can potentially donate organs even after cardiac death.
Yes.
So we'll have to keep everything ready, and moment there is death with some other method, you keep the whole setup ready. But it just gives me it just feels odd to even talk about this. So what are we saying, that you get these prisoners and you keep everything ready, and I mean it
just doesn't sound right. Do you agree? Because this was your
Doctor,
petition.
With great respect, I know what you mean, because this is a very specialized process. But what I had said, all that I requested in the petition was that, assuming they say yes, then please ask the top medical institutions to make the necessary arrangements. You don't have to. Maybe it's like a mini operation theatre, because the doctors know how to go about it. The point is that the certify as soon as the person is certified dead, which should be in half a minute, no need to keep the body hanging, and then the next part of it could be done whereby if the doctors are present, naturally they'll need their equipment and everything else. I don't say no, but I don't think it's a total difficulty.
Well, I mean, I see some challenges. So the other challenge is that I think we need to ask the families of the prisoners, because in the process of consent for organ donation, we always involve
Check
the
with the
family.
families.
There are families who believe that that their close loved one goes to heaven and is reborn, and without organs they will. So there are all these. So we'll need to be
Yes.
very sensitive. So I mean, in a normal situation in a hospital also, it's a very sensitive area, and we're now talking of death row prisoners. I mean, it just means huge challenges.
I think the interesting part about this conversation is that specific to do with this case, there has been such an outpouring of public anger and grief. And people are also very, I think, impatient or frustrated with the delay that, you know, that the process has caused in the carrying out of these executions. Maybe it's important for us to realize that there's so much more to it than just, you know, the judge pronouncing a sentence and that sentence being carried out. That these are, at the end of the day, you know, families, human beings, there is ethics involved, there is process involved. There are rules, like Justice Saldana said, that were written in the British era about how these executions are carried out.
Yes, 1880 something.
And maybe it's time to relook at those rules as well.
And they're also in Old English.
No, it's time to look at what does capital punishment doing, whether it is in any way impacting crime. There's time to look at how are we executing people. So there are so many issues.
This is, I'm assuming this is something you feel strongly about, the fact that the process is not scientific at all, at whatever end. And several other countries have relooked or modernized their process, but we haven't. Yeah. And I believe there's enough research to suggest that the capital punishment has had zero impact whatsoever on crime rates. It does not bring down the number of rapes.
Absolutely.
I endorse that view.
Okay.
Absolutely. See, somebody who commits heinous offences of this type, they don't turn around and think as to what's going to happen, assuming they are caught and assuming the law sentences them. It's had no deterrent effect at all. Absolutely nothing. And that's why I feel that from this furor which is now coming up, it's only fueling the aspect of revenge.
Yeah.
Of bloodlust for the society.
No, it's revenge. You see, something's happened to me, so therefore I feel that, you see, to what extent is the situation going to improve? See, my brother has been butchered and I say, therefore take this. You see, it's like in the Middle Ages, Faye, in England. You see, they used to bring a prisoner and hang him and quarter him and do all sorts of things, because this was basically a revenge process. There are a lot of brutality involved in it. And what are you doing ultimately? And what is the purpose?
Yeah, and one more argument against capital punishment, and I would like to Justice to respond, is apparently studies have shown that there could be a small error in convicting the wrong person. Now, just it's mind-boggling that if you're convicted the wrong person and you're putting him to death. I don't know what you feel about that.
I agree with you totally, because I have long experience, 40 years as a criminal lawyer, doctor, and 17 years as a judge. And I am firmly of the view that the more serious the offense, the more the shortcuts. And the typical instances of the Hyderabad case the other day.
Right.
You see, you take the easy way out. A murder has taken place here, catch hold of the panwala and the watchman. And then you fabricate the evidence. You say that, well, he produced a knife, he did this, he did that. And if you torture a person, the person will even come in front of the judge and make a confession. So all this, you see, with the type of investigative machinery that we have. Now, I firmly believe that those boys who were caught in Hyderabad, they may not have been good chaps. But then you usually catch that class of people, you see.
But the foundation of our entire system is that you have your day in court. You have a lawyer, you have the ability to argue out your case. The police are not judges or execute.
I agree, but the point is that the courts go on the basis of the evidence which the police produce. So to a very large extent, they think, and just taking on from where why did they abolish the death sentence in the UK, Faye? The reason for it was because during those days there was so much IRA terrorism that whenever they caught these IRA terrorists, they used to end up with a death sentence in the UK. Now, one young chap, he was 22 years old, and he was awarded a death sentence for terrorism in London. And you see, it so happened that this controversy came up. So before he was executed, they abolished capital punishment. Okay. 5 years go by, and then after a lot of research and various other things, a review petition was filed. And when the review petition was filed, it was a very substantial petition. The court re-examined all of the evidence, and the court acquitted him.
So you could have just as likely
there's
have
no evidence,
taken
there's
his
no evidence
life.
to show, and that created a global sensation, because they said but for the death sentence being abolished, he would have been executed 5 years back.
Yes.
So you can't correct those mistakes.
Right. I'm going to leave this conversation here, gentlemen. Thank you so much for helping us understand this. I think fundamentally, as members of society, this amount of anger and sort of revenge seeking, the bloodlusting that we want this carried out is one thing, but we must appreciate that there's a process in place. There are laws that are, I mean, in the very least, outdated and unscientific in terms of process. So right now, we have to appreciate the entire gamut of what is going on and maybe encourage government to re-look at some of our rules. If you want us to take a look at anything else on Truth Be Told, leave us a comment at the bottom of this video, and come back next time for our next video. Subscribe so you will find out when we've uploaded our next video. Thanks for watching.